Tantra helps you live life more powerfully. A byproduct of Tantra is that you become a better lover.
Welcome back to another episode of Therapist in Your Pocket with Lucy Ellis. Today, I am pleased to be with Dominique D'Vita, who is a registered nurse and a certified transformational Tantra coach. She says she's a healer. Think Marvin Gaye's sexual healing, which I absolutely love. Now I'm going to have that earworm in my ear all day. Sexual healing.
It's my theme song.
Probably sounds nothing like that. Haven't warmed up my vocal cords. Welcome, Dom.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So good to have you. Dom and I met in a mastermind together, and I was instantly drawn to the way Dom speaks about the transformations that she gets with her clients and through the use of Tantra. And Tantra is something that I've been interested in. I haven't dived into myself, but have always had my ears pricked up about Tantra. And so when I met you and I heard about all the beautiful work that you did, I wanted to bring you onto this podcast. So it's my absolute pleasure to have you here today. I'd like to begin for those that are unsure of what Tantra is, if you could just give us the kindergarten version of what is Tantra.
Also, Tantra is something that I wanted to explore for a decade before I had my first experience with it. And it changed my life in so many profound ways. I was just like, oh my goodness, why didn't I do this sooner than later? Because my life could have gotten so much easier, so much faster. Because I think a lot of us, we have the misconception that Tantra is only about things in the bedroom, because that's the spicy stuff we hear about. Or years ago, I'd hear Sting talk about making love to his wife for hours because he had studied Tantra. And that got my attention. But I didn't know that it would also give me tools for me to be able to navigate life more easily. So Tantra is a Sanskrit word. There's different lineages of Tantra, but it's a Sanskrit word from India that means weaving or looming together, like this tapestry. You're bringing things together and you're able to create, through this weaving and looming, create a beautiful tapestry of your life because you have these beautiful tools to create that. Initially, Tantra was only for men. I want you to imagine Buddhist monks meditating on the side of the mountains for hours. They were just wanting to connect with their energy centers, their life force energy in their body, and use it to expand and tap into deeper levels of consciousness and have a spiritual awakening. If you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the very top of that pyramid is self-actualization. That's what Tantra helps you to do, to really unlock all this buried treasure that we have within us so we can live life more powerfully and create our life with the magic that we have within us. And a byproduct of Tantra is that if you have this deep intimacy with yourself and you can be fully present and dropped in and meditate for long periods of time and have this presence and master your energy, when emotions are just energy and motions. So then we also have emotional mastery and emotional intelligence. When you are embodying all these things, you become also a better lover because you have more presence. We can only connect with someone else as deeply as we first connect within ourselves. So when we do the deep dive within ourselves, we can have experiences with others that are more in depth. So that's what Tantra helps us to do in our modern world, in marketing, sex sales. And I know that's initially what got my attention. So I will share that from that space because I know that's what that gravitated me towards it as well. But then when I work with my clients, you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea like this was going to open up so much more for me, or that we're going to go this deep into this area. And they really love it because it's so much more than meets the eye.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also sounds like a lot of hard work. I don't know, when you talk about the Buddhists on the mountain being able to meditate for hours and hold presence in this very distracted world that we live in, what would encourage somebody to lean into this work? Yes, we understand that presence is so powerful within itself, but do we really value presence in today's world?
Yeah. You can ask that, but also, what is it like because women were very intuitive. Think about what is it like to be with a lover that it almost feels like they're just masturbating inside of our bodies. They're disconnected. They're just going through the emotions. They may be in a fantasy of something else in their mind. And it's just boom, go through the motions, roll over, fall asleep.
Mm.
Now, compare that to someone who is really fully present with you and you feel fully seen by them. You feel a level of safety with them because their nervous system is regulated, and Tantra helps you with that as well. That they're able to have this deeper connection, and actually, instead of being with you on a superficial level or for ego validation or just to, oh, I've had a stressful day and I just want to push all my stress on you and release so I can just relax and unwind. But if someone is like being in service to you and in devotion to you and honoring you as the goddess, and I'm here with deep presence, and I know how to make love to your soul, not just skin to skin superficial, but with depth,
Mm.
and then allow you to unfold in this beautiful way because now you're feeling safety, you're feeling honored. Also, in our society, there's a orgasm gap where men almost always have a climax with lovemaking, and women, we don't. We can with ourselves and solo, but often with a partner, we don't, because men are like microwave ovens. They really quick to heat up and ding, they're done. Women, we need like a conventional oven. We need to be preheated. It's a
Me
savory
too.
dish. Yeah. We need to be cooked for 45 minutes to an hour. We're getting at our juiciness and everything is going in that flow. So a lot of times we're missing one another because men peak in their arousal and then finish fast if they're not tantric lovers. And then women, before we're even getting started, game over. And
Mm.
so when you think about it, in those ways, presence is really important
Mm.
because how honoring is it to be fully seen and to be cherished and to be honored and be considered instead of feeling like this was just a blip and just a quickie for them to get their rocks off, and our pleasure and our experience isn't even a consideration.
Yeah, okay, you've sold it now. You've sold presence now. And at the same time, how I can imagine fearful that is to be fully for a woman's body in particular. Majority of my listeners are women. We do have some men that listen to this podcast, so I don't want to excuse that, but for women to be fully seen and to be held in such a way can be really quite scary for our nervous system because maybe it's not something that we're used to.
That's the challenge within whenever we have intimacy blocks. And I do have a quiz that we can share later with your listeners to identify certain intimacy blocks that people may be having. A lot of times we are able to have lovemaking and approach it from a place of skin to skin, superficial, ego validation, or are we actually able to have depth and make love to someone's soul? If we are afraid of fully being seen, most of us are, because over 95% of adults in the Western world received inadequate parenting. So either have a mother wound, a father wound, which is something I guide my clients with as well, or from a past hurt or relationship. So we're guarded and we armor up. When we're in that space of armoring up, we can jump in the bed with someone and do crazy positions, and they're seeing every part of us. But if we were to do eye gazing, which is a tantric intimacy practice, we would be like, oh my gosh, no, like you just have me in these crazy positions and I'm here and I'm butt ass naked. But oh my gosh, don't look at me in the eyes. That could be such an edgy practice for so many people because we have a fear of fully being seen, because we learn to wear these masks so that we get the approval of parents, society, peers, colleagues across the board. So it's a game that we played for a long time.
Mm.
Now, it can seem scary, but how scary is it to be with someone whose nervous system is dysregulated and they don't know how to tune into us and they're not attentive to our needs and they're not handling us with care? To me, that sounds a little bit scarier, but you get to choose what is your level of where are you fearful. Are you fearful of intimacy and connection? Are you fearful of being seen? You know what I mean? Or are you fearful for just being used and just, oh, okay, my body is a way, me giving up my body to someone is just a way for me to get validation and for them to tell me that I'm sexy and that I'm so great in bed. That was me before Tantra.
Yeah, you're putting on a performance.
Yeah, very performative. And that's how most people approach it because we never get the right education we deserve when we were younger because people don't want to talk about it. So we go and look at adult videos to figure it out. And then we start modeling what we're seeing. And in videos, it's very performative.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm thinking to experience Tantra, especially in this way in lovemaking, it's essential that both parties are, you can't just try and make love to somebody's soul and they're just reactive or performative.
Yeah.
It's a two-way thing that we have to provide that safety with each other.
Yes. And that's where you have that deeper intimacy and connection and the sexual healing Marvin Gaye would sing about because you're being open, you're allowing yourself to be fully seen and you're fully seeing that other person. And it can be a whole new experience. Another thing with Tantra is, and why meditation or meditating for long periods of time is helpful, your brain is your largest sex organ. And so with neuroplasticity with the brain, we're able to create different pleasure pathways and prolong pleasure pathways. Say that 5 times fast. Prolong your pathways. And so what we want to do with this is what has been found is that the longer a male can stay in a meditative state, the longer he can last in bed. The longer a female can stay in a meditative state, the more easy it will be for her to climax. Because how often is the monkey mind, or we're being distracted, or we're stressed out about the day's events, is pulling us into being here instead of dropping into our bodies and also being able to drop into connecting with our partner and their bodies and what's going on with them energetically.
It's present piece. That's the presence piece right there. Yeah, being able to hold attention in the now without thinking about the shopping list or whatever. Yeah, that's so interesting that you talk about, yeah, how long we can hold our attention as to how long we can last or how much we can open ourselves to, for women, to orgasm.
Yes.
And we're talking about cervical orgasms here because I think that's another thing about clitoral and cervical orgasms. I think clitoral orgasms are easier. They require less presence. I'm
Yes.
not too sure. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they are much easier. And when you think anatomically wise, as when we're in utero and we're this cluster of cells, the cells that form the clitoris are also the cells that form the head of the penis if we're anatomically male. So it's almost like when a man is just having a really quick climax and it's just this real quick and it's done. You know what I mean? It doesn't, and it's not very cathartic or it's just a quick little blip. And that's where sometimes women can not feel fully satisfied because it's not that deeper experience that can have them have more pleasure. And I do have a female pleasure masterclass replay, and I talk about the 9+ types of female orgasms women can have and also show anatomically where they're located in the body. And part of the cervix, the clitoris goes and nervates. It's almost like a wishbone. And the part of it goes back into the vaginal canal and even gives some of the stimulation and the nerve supply to the G-spot orgasms and the deeper orgasms. So you can have more of a deeper orgasmic experience or even a blended orgasmic experience where, that's firing off from multiple places. One of the things that really surprised me though with Tantra is I was able to have energetic climaxes where my first tantric lover, I got so connected to him that whenever I would just lay next to him and I would be laying next to him in bed, relaxed, I could just go into states of orgasmicness. And then after a few months of us dating, and I was thinking to myself, I'm not sure if I need to continue this relationship. He said to me one day, yeah, you're not responding to me. You don't do, you're not orgasmic when you just lay next to me anymore. But it was actually my body. Our bodies are so smart. It was telling me like, no, I don't know how safe this feels to continue for other reasons. And so I started shutting down that way. But when I was really open and connected within my energy centers to him, just our chakras and our energy flowing back, because sex is a SEX, sacred energy exchange. So we're sharing the energies together. And you can literally feel like this full body waves of bliss and ecstatic bliss without even having my lover touch me, which was really wild.
That's incredible. Yeah, and without even eye gazing or anything, lying next to him and feeling his energy and receiving his energy.
Yeah, it was
It's
amazing.
incredible. Amazing. And so, why is this important for us to have these deeper connections? People maybe say, I'm in a functioning, healthy relationship. We're doing life together. I'm happy. I'm happy with the amount of times we're having sex. I'm okay. I'm settling maybe for what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, why would we need to explore more or have more? Go deeper?
Yeah, such a good question. Prior to my experience with Tantra, when I said I had my first soulgasm, I was a recurring guest on Playboy Radio. I operated very much like Samantha on Sex and the City. I had been giving sex tips to my friends for decades. They were like, oh my gosh, that tip you shared with me saved my marriage. You should write a book. So I was always very sex positive and comfortable talking about sexuality. And I was having better sex than probably like 99% of my friends. And I was just like, oh, I have reached the top of the mountain. I'm having great times, because sometimes we don't realize what we're missing. And when I had this experience with my first tantric lover, I was able to experience these prolonged states of ecstatic bliss that I never knew were possible within my body. And I realized afterwards that what I had been experiencing before was just like the tip of the iceberg. Like I've been just scratching the surface of what was possible, that there was a whole level and depth of pleasure that I hadn't been tapping into, that I had more capacity to feel and to experience. And when you have these really deep cathartic experiences like soulgasm, it also helps to regulate your nervous system. And it opened up my chakras and my energy centers and opened up my third eye and my crown chakra. And I had what's called like a Kundalini awakening through these tantric practices. So then I could connect more to my higher self, to my creative genius, and tap into my full power, because I had been so disconnected from the power within me. And I was able to plug back into myself through these processes, and then just really be on fire and use my energy, my desire, my turn on, and fuel up my chakras and my energy centers as rocket fuel for my life. So then I could really take things to a whole other level. And I ended up leaving my 30 plus years of career as a nurse to go all in with Tantra coaching, because it was so deeply healing for me.
Amazing. Amazing. And so it really is how we manifest.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways.
With our sacral chakra in particular, which our sacral chakra is, it's located just below our navel, our belly button. And it is connected to our creativity, our life force energy, and we're able to tap into our creative genius. And for women, a lot of times we feel that our sensuality and our sexuality is something to feel shame about, or it's only for the lover, it's not for ourselves. Or then if we're at a time when we're not in a relationship and we're being maybe celibate, or if, we've lost a spouse or been divorced and we're on our own, we can not connect to this power center within ourselves, and it diminishes our ability to manifest and to create, because we're these creatrixes in our lives. But a lot of us, we literally dim our light and we disconnect from that power, because we'll be like, oh, good girls don't do that, and wifey material, this or that. And we're so much about what is everyone else going to perceive about me? Because if I'm in my juiciness and I'm really in this amazing state of fully embracing my sensuality for myself. But if anyone deserves to experience you and your body, it's you. You are your longest lasting relationship from your first breath to your last. So learning to be your best lover and to be comfortable with that energy and know that this energy is what brought you into existence. This is your life force energy, and there should be no shame in such creation. If it wasn't for this energy, none of us would even be here. And so embracing that and using it as a source of power and again, rocket fuel for our desires. We don't just have to create a human life. With this energy, we can also create the life our heart desires. And then I want to add on one other piece about why we should be doing this. The 3 tenets of Tantra for over 5,000 years is breath, sound, and movement. And when I became a trauma-informed master coach, I learned that the 3 modalities that are used to help to people with trauma and to treat trauma are breath, sound, and movement. I was like, oh, no wonder I had such healing with these practices.
Very powerful stuff. And yeah, I get this, that women, if we were really in all our juicy sexual energy, what a powerful woman that is, right?
Yeah.
So confident within herself and her power. And yet we are so disconnected from our sexual power in a lot of ways, I believe. And especially, I think, when you do get into those long-term relationships where you've had the kids and it's really busy and life is lifing, I think, and then we reach menopause, it's like we get further and further away from that connection, which doesn't have to dry up with menopause.
Exactly. Yes, because on Halloween, I'll be 57. So these type of orgasmic experiences are the fountain of youth for women. And the Taoist beliefs are very similar to Tantra. They believe that the reason the lifespan for males on average is shorter than for females is because men lose a lot of their life force energy through frequent ejaculation. So for men, learning how to master non-ejaculatory orgasms is key. So if they're constantly ejaculating several times a day, they're draining their life force energy. And if you notice, right after lovemaking, men will quickly fall asleep if they ejaculated. And women, if they've had an amazing orgasmic experience, will be more talkative. Because women, we get charged up through this, whereas men are draining their life force energy. Women, we lose life force energy through menstruation, pregnancy, and childbirth. So also in menopause, we're not having those things that are draining our life force energy. So we can really tap more into our power if we know how to connect this way through our energy centers.
Amazing. We get to bring it all in back because we're
Yes.
not having all of those things that are drained. So we can actually become more powerful, more
Yes.
confident within ourselves. And I was watching something, a little snippet of a podcast actually just yesterday. And this lady spoke about how when we were young, and obviously our sexual energy, I don't know what it is, but maybe you can talk into this. When we're young, we got attention, whether we wanted the attention or not, whether we felt attractive or not. There was always somebody looking at us. We were more noticeable. And then all of a sudden, you turn this age where you're invisible and people don't treat you, you just go unnoticed. I think that part about the menopause and the change is very hard for women to experience and to be with and to live with. And I'm wondering if that is because of not being connected to your sexual energy, because if you were, you wouldn't become invisible. I don't know. Could you talk into that? What are your thoughts about
Yeah,
that?
I remember I went downtown Austin with one of my friends. It was a couple years ago, but I was menopausal and we got out of Congress that's really popular, and coming outside of Equinox Gym were some really young men. And she had come to the door to my side, and I opened the door and I locked eyes with them. And they were totally checking me out. She's like, oh my gosh, you and I have got to go out sometime. And she's much younger than me. She's maybe 40 max. And she was like, this is crazy how they just walked into you. What is going on? But it's like an energy. And then another time I was walking down there and some guy was a much younger man. I was with my friend, and my friend was more like, she would do everything to glam up she loves to get the attention of the male gaze. And I used to model, and in the past I would do that, but I don't focus on that as much anymore. And some guy, as I was walking by, he was like, wow, your energy is incredible. And my friend was just like, what is going on? But it's like when you tune into that energy and you take it for your power, there is something very true, though, about ageism and how society, because all the marketing, everything is geared towards getting women to be consumers. And so having us buy all the creams and all the cosmetics and all the things and all dyeing our hair, and we do all these crazy routines, and we're consumers because everyone else is giving us these signals and these messages, even subliminal messages, like that we're not enough. And so we do all this stuff, which is crazy. And one of the things is, whenever I stopped needing external validation, then it really didn't matter to me, because I was like good within my relationship with myself. So I didn't need someone else to be turned on by me or whatever. Sometimes when it happens, it's fun or funny. It's okay, whatever, but it's not my highest value. But when I was younger and before Tantra, and then I was in LA and I was modeling some, man, every time if I would get my photos back from a photographer, I could not wait to get home and put them online and get the feedback that I was going to get. And people would be giving me all these compliments. And since Tantra, then I've had some photographers send me some photos again or share something with me. And then I just keep it for myself. I don't even post it publicly anymore, because I'm just like, oh, this is nice. And this is just for me. But old me that was insecure and didn't have the healthiest relationship with myself, I was outsourcing, wanting other people to love me because I wasn't willing to do it for myself. And then I was getting unhealthy love and unhealthy attention a lot of times.
Absolutely. I agree. And I agree that energy doesn't lie. So I'm
Yeah,
not saying that when we were young, we wanted the attention. You know, quite often I would hate it. You'd walk past a
exactly.
building site and you'd get wolf whistled and show us your tits and people just yelling out random things. And I really didn't like it. It made us feel uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure I can talk for every single female on the planet that has had experiences where they've been looked at, where they've been noticed young,
Mhm.
young. And it's almost the invisibility comes as a bit of a shock. And also it's okay, but then but it's just very noticeable, I think. But like you say, with your energy doesn't lie. And that's what I love about energetic practices.
Yeah,
You cannot
you can't fake
fake that
that.
shit. You
Yeah,
cannot. Yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
love it.
yeah.
And another thing too that I see is, because of these uncomfortable experiences we've had about us being sexualized or people being drawn to our energy, that's where we clamp down in our sacral chakra and we repress that energy, because we don't want unwanted attention. We don't want to be sexually harassed. We don't want to be seen as the bad girl, the wild girl. And so we shut it down, but we're literally dimming our light. So there's a way that we can take ownership of that energy and also have boundaries. We can also carry ourselves energetically of, I'm not someone for you to mess with.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? But I think when we're younger and more naive, we've still been programmed a lot by society of being the nice girl, or we're not totally comfortable pushing away or calling someone out. And I think also one part of it is, yes, we are not appearing the way we looked when we were young, but also with age and with wisdom, I think also men are like, okay, and this is a challenge too, why a lot of times men will prefer to date much younger women, is because an older woman is going to call them on their BS.
This is
And so there's also a thing, it's not to say as we're aging, we're not attractive, but also it's okay if some young girl that was walking around and you could tell energetically she was insecure about herself and didn't carry herself with a certain way of don't mess with me, then you're making yourself energetically an easy target to notice. I'm not to blame the woman, but like energetically. And when I started shifting, I remember being in San Francisco and there could be a lot of homeless people on the streets and some people with mental illness, and they would be screaming at people, and it could be scary to walk down the street. But when I started working with my energetics, I could walk and it was almost like I was on in a stealth mode. Like they just wouldn't, I was not on their radar. And I could just walk by and I wasn't going to be the person that they were going to be messing with or yelling their stuff at. So it was really very interesting. And it's so important in how we carry ourselves energetically as well. When you're on a different frequency, like attracts like. So you're leveling yourself up energetically. So you're not on the radar for people who are operating down here at this low vibrational levels.
Oh, wow, I love that. I also love that when dogs take notice of me, like all the dogs want to pat me and they all want to come up to me. I'm
Such a
like,
good sign.
they just, even if they can't get to me, they're like looking.
They're like, hey, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. And so for people that are listening and thinking, oh man, I'd like to tap into my sexual energy more and hold that more within myself, what are some tips or because obviously if it's not if they just want to work on this within themselves,
Right.
what how can we connect with our sexual energy both for the females, but also we must include the males as well. The
Yeah.
males. Yeah.
It's important whenever you're having self pleasure. Sometimes we can think, oh, if I'm married, I'm in a relationship, I shouldn't have self pleasure because they're going to think they're not satisfying me or whatever. But again, you are your longest lasting relationship. This is your body. You deserve and get to enjoy your body. Right. So, whenever you can take time with yourself with pleasure, or even when you're with a partner and you're climaxing, how often do we hurry up and get up and we'll go? Because it's important for women to use the restroom afterwards a lot of times so don't get UTI. But can you just allow yourself to lay there in the moment and just breathe all of that pleasure in your body? Can you expand your capacity to hold pleasure? Because your ability to receive is also going to impact your ability to receive and manifesting as well. So if we're constantly pushing things away, or we can be, especially as women, we can wish that a lover would be able to take more time with us. But then when we're self pleasuring, we know how to get from point A to point B. We know how to give ourselves a quickie, boom, I'm up, I'm on to the next thing I've got to do. That we're literally showing the universe, everyone, how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. So our bodies are like, are you serious? Just the little time you're going to take with me? So when we can be our own best lover and sit and be curious and allow ourselves to experience more pleasure, that's how we can start to ramp this energy up and have pleasure, feel safer in our body, and know that this is actually a power center for us. It's our life force, vitality, energy.
Yeah, exactly. Making sure that you give yourself more space and time to sink in and soak in and light some candles and play some beautiful music for yourself.
Yes.
Nice oils out and really create that space for yourself.
Yeah. Be your
As a
own best lover. You will attract better lovers that way as well.
Yeah, and that goes for the men as well. What are your views on masturbation for men? Because that's their life force energy, right?
Yeah. Based on what their age and their health is going to let you know how often they should be climaxing per week or per month, just depending on those things. And that's what I help guide them through. But one of the things is like when you are going to pleasure yourself, also just don't run up and do cleanup because you got to think too, when we first started self pleasuring, usually we didn't want to get caught by our parents. So we do things really fast. And for men, that's really been a hindrance for men because your brain is your largest sex organ. So you get used to finishing fast because you started that way to finish it fast. So it's, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do cleanup, on to the next thing. Can you also allow yourself to really feel that pleasure into your cells, breathe that all in through your body, and just bask in that moment of how amazing that is before you just jump to do the next activity or the next thing on your to-do list, and really give some time and be present with yourself.
Yeah. It's the same thing for all. Yeah. Because then you get to carry that energy with you into, so your capacity as a woman expands for receivership or expands for pleasure.
Yes, for both. And even for a man, how much can he allow himself to receive? And pleasure is also going to expand how much he can receive in other areas of his life. But if he's constantly draining his life force energy and frequently climaxing, he's going to feel really drained. If any of the listeners have read the book, Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he has a chapter titled The Mystery of Sex and talks about sexual transmutation. And it's believed like Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, these people knew how to do certain practices so that they could transmute this energy and tap into their creative genius. That's what Tantra helps you do. But back when this book was published in the 1930s, it was such an important part of people's success that he dedicated a chapter to it, but he couldn't explain how it was done. Nikola Tesla did spend some time in India. So I believe that he learned these practices because he always stayed single so that he could channel that energy, his own energy, into his creative genius and his projects and things that he was working on.
I suppose it allows you to be more yourself. Yeah. So you're more open to that channel, right?
Yeah. And get more tapped in.
Yeah. And let that lead the way. So it's, even though you say brain is the biggest sex organ, but it's the presence. It's coming back to the presence again, isn't it? It's like saying presence with my own turn on, with my own creativity, with my own pleasure, which if we could harness more of, absolutely. I can just imagine life is limitless, what we could.
Exactly.
Access, yeah. And what about outside of the bedroom? Is there any Tantra practices that you can do to stay tapped in or to keep this alive within you?
Yeah, dancing is really great because dancing incorporates, you're breathing more deeply when you're dancing. So you have the 3 tenets of Tantra breath. Then you have sound because you could be singing along with it, and you have the sound if it's drums or the frequency of the sound of music. So also pay attention to your music. If it's like low vibrational sounds or higher vibrational frequencies, that's also important. Then you have movement. So you can be doing the circle 8 with your hips and moving your hips and getting any dense energies, you're able to move them up through your body. So that's a really amazing practice. And one of my mentors is Preston Smiles. And one practice he talks about is called Dance Yourself Clean. So when you're feeling in a funk or you feel sad or whatever, you can just dancing like no one is watching and you're not paying attention. It's not choreographed. You just put on a piece of music that can either amp up your feelings of sadness or anger or rage or whatever, and move through that first and then go to some happy tunes after that. But just move and allow your body to intuitively, somatically show you how you need to be moving that. And just you're letting those stuck energies go, and you're getting the energetics flowing more in your body through this. And it can be very cathartic and help you through challenging emotions, or if you're feeling stressed out or weighed down, and start to really, we're these beacons of light. And when we can raise our frequency and our vibration, we can shine our light so we can help other people find their way home as well. So it's really important for us in our path and for helping to be that guide for other people by shining a light on the path and being a guide to shine so people can find their way.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it gets me thinking about also presence. I keep coming back to presence. It's interesting that I keep coming back to presence because we're transiting gate 20 in the human design world at the moment, and it's all about presence.
Love that.
You mentioned the presence of, which is a big part of Tantra as well. And I just think about then also you've got your dancing, you've got your time with yourself, making love with yourself, invigorating that sexual energy. But then where in all your other areas of your life you can have this pleasure, like in the food that you eat, or you're just going to gobble something in and not be present to what you're eating? Or are you going to create something really beautiful for yourself and sit in a nice place and experience it and be present with it? Anything could be pleasure, or anything could open up that sexual experience or pleasure within you.
I love that you shared this because you can eat in a tantric way, which is like slowing things down and then using all of your five senses, because Tantra helps you use your five senses so you can draw it more into your body. So using your five senses whenever you're eating something and visually taking in, look, feeling the textures of it, the smell of it, the taste. And you can use sound and be like, that tastes so good. And just incorporating all of your five senses into the experience and
Mm.
slow down and savor that moment. And I love what you said too about the presence. And you think of presence, you think of also like, think of presence under a tree because your presence is a gift. And when someone can be fully present with you, how good does that feel when someone's fully dropped in and present with you instead of them talking to you while they're rushing through and doing other things? And we think we're all so great at multitasking.
And it is rare.
Unfortunately, yeah, especially in our modern world, it definitely is.
Yeah, it is rare. It's just made me even think about when I cook dinner for the family and I'm just moving things up the other end of the table and slapping it on down, and because we're in a rush, but it's, well, how can we drop in and just be here, be with, be connected? Because that kind of connects with gratitude as well, to really take life in, to really use the experience, to open your heart as well, isn't it? So I can understand the soul orgasms, or the soul pleasure is through presence, just being able to hold
Yeah.
each other. Beautiful. Okay, you've certainly convinced me.
I love this.
This is cool. Where would somebody start if they wanted to experience, to work with you, to open themselves up to Tantra?
I have a website. It's yestantra.com, Tantra. And there's a section on my website that says quizzes. And there's different quizzes there if you're more interested in chakras or to see if you're ready to transform with Tantra, what intimacy blocks you have. There's a Tantra quiz. There's also a male stamina quiz and a female pleasure quiz. I believe 3 of the quizzes also come with a free masterclass replay. So you can go in and start to figure and learn some things about yourself and then dip your toes in the water, learn and listen to one of the master classes as well. And if you're just feeling, oh no, I'm just really ready to not just dip my toes in, but to do a deep dive and have a radical transformation with this, then you can also apply for coaching with me. And when you submit that application, you'll qualify for a complimentary discovery call where we can sit and talk about what are your goals, your challenges, what seems to be in the way, like where are you now? What are the gaps? What are the things that are standing in your way? And why haven't you already gotten to the goal that you want? And then we'll create a plan to help you to reach those goals through Tantra and through my other master coaching tools.
So you're talking about goals in general, not so much pleasure goals, but goals about where they are in life as well?
Yeah, I can't give any money claims, but I've had clients that have started making much more money, more than quadrupled their income just within weeks of even us working together sometimes because they were draining their life force energy too much, being able to tap more into their creativity, have healthier relationships, manifest things powerfully. Tantra really helps you to be a powerful manifester so that anything is possible there. And how we show up in the bedroom is how we show up in the boardroom, is how we show up in the Zoom room. How we do one thing is how we do anything. When you start changing how you show up in these spaces and you let go of shame or by things that are holding you back and you're fully expressed and you're in your like juiciness, most radiant self, you become irresistible to the universe and to the things that you're wanting to call in. And so you get to start to play and into the magic that you already are. So it's more about, I like to think of Michelangelo and the statue of David. And they had asked him, how did you just create the statue of David out of the stone of marble? How did you do that? And he goes, the masterpiece of David was already there. All I was doing was chipping away the parts that didn't belong. And that's what I feel like it is when I work with my clients. It's you're already whole and complete, but you've taken on maybe limiting beliefs, or you've been self-sabotaging, or there's something that's holding you back or been weighing you down. Let's move those things out of the way so you can be fully expressed into your highest self. And that's always so much fun to see that transformation and that metamorphosis and let people feel empowered by their life force energy and their vitality. And it's not just to last longer in bed, it's about lasting longer in life, because this helps with longevity as well.
Mm, love that. I love how you are in the bedroom is how you are everywhere. And it gets people thinking, because I think I'm not going to put a blanket cover on everybody, but I think the intimacy aspect of life people are very scared of in general. And wow, imagine if you could really get good with that, then how your life could transform. Incredible. Become that beautiful statue of David that you already are anyway.
And when you have more intimacy, isn't always about provocative things, but when you have intimacy and closeness and you're able to have that with other people, you can have more intimacy in your business relationships, within your friendships, with your relationships with family as well, and a certain closeness, and it can be deeply healing across the board. And I know I had a lot of childhood trauma. My mother was an alcoholic, and I was a parentified child, and I went through a lot with my mother. And my oldest daughter shared with me, because she would notice I'm a big worm. And I would keep reading books trying to get over that trauma that I'd had with my mom. And my daughter said, for a while, when you would read the books, I could see a difference in your behavior. But then when you would stop reading the book, you would go back to the old pattern, the old behavior. She goes, it wasn't until Tantra that you started to create consistent change. And she was an adult when I discovered Tantra. I wish I had discovered it sooner. I would have been a better parent. Now with my daughters, we've done a lot of deep healing because I was a very young mom with them, and our relationships have really blossomed, thank goodness, to the Tantra aspects and the things that I've done and the tools that I've had to be a safe space and to face off with those traumas. But a lot of times we can think, if we read a book, or we've been told like knowledge is power. So we can think, I just need to read this thing. But if we don't know how to embody it and it doesn't become a part of who we be and how we start to live our life differently, it's not going to create lasting change. So it's not about how much information we have here, facts we can recite off. It's like, how much can we bring this into ourselves so that we can have that transformation? And Tantra is a really powerful tool for transformation.
Because it's body work, right? Everything's done through the body, keeps the score and all of those things. But that's exactly right. A lot of times what I talk to my clients about as well is that if they're stuck in something, or they're in an emotion that they can't get out of or process correctly, I say you cannot logic your way out of an emotion or out of a trauma response. You cannot. You have to move through it through the body. And once you can do that, and it's quick, and
Yeah.
it settles. But yeah, we've spent so much time in our head that that's where we default to all the time. But the body is the magician.
Yes. And we hold so much magic. And so let's tap into that. And yesterday was a big day of grief for me. Trigger warning, my first husband passed away. And I left him like 38 years ago, but he was my first serious boyfriend. And I just allowed myself to be fully present with the grief, and really feeling a lot for my oldest daughter that had this loss, and feeling the grief and the sadness for her as well. And then I did emotional release writing and I did a lot of stuff. And I just paused yesterday and I really allowed myself to be with it and move through it. And today has been so much easier. And I told my daughter, I talked to her briefly earlier. She was like, "Did you see my post that I put it?" I said, "After I do my podcast today, I'll look at it because if I start to cry," I was like, "But I promise I'll look at it later." But just knowing how to do these practices, I was like, wow, I really moved through a lot yesterday. And I was just, it was like so cathartic. And I was like, man, thank goodness I have these tools so I don't stay stuck. Because disease is just dis-ease. It's this discomfort in our bodies. And it can stay stuck inside of there. So my daughter also told me that while her dad was in the hospital, he told her, "I wish I could have a do-over." And sometimes I know my daughter has been confused. Why me, who I've been a nurse since I was 19. I've done humanitarian work as a nurse in Vietnam and Haiti and Mexico. I was always like top in my nursing profession and very well respected and with a lot of honors and making big impacts in people's lives. And I think my daughter's so confused, like, why are you coaching? Why aren't you nursing? So when she shared this with me, I said, yes, I worked ICU many years. So many people come in and they realize when it's too late. I go, and this is why I switched from nursing to coaching because I want to meet people at an earlier point in their timeline to give them the tools to heal from their traumas and to hopefully through my health tips and other things, I guide them. Hopefully they won't be in such a serious compromising situation in the hospital, but regardless, whenever they do take their last breath, they won't have that regret. So that was like, that's why now it's like, okay, now you can understand why I've been doing what I'm doing. Cause I think for her, she's, I just don't get why you're not being a nurse. I was like, there's a lot of reasons because it's so heartbreaking when you meet people and they waited too late.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you've done nursing, you've done that, and that was something that you needed to do in order to get here.
yeah.
But yeah, and on a spiritual level, when I just hear about your daughter's father saying, "I wish I could have a do-over," I think you will. You
Yeah.
will have a do-over, and you will. And I think if we can die knowing that we've left everything on the field, maybe
All
our
right.
do will be a different experience next time, or
Exactly.
maybe he comes back and he has to redo it all over again
There
until
might,
he gets the lesson that he needed to correct in this lifetime. I'm just rolling up my sleeves, ready to get in and do as much as I can so I can keep evolving.
yeah, that's how I am as well. That's just been a completely different path. And then also the past 2 weeks, both of my daughters, they have different dads. Both their dads have been in the hospital at the same time for the past 2 weeks and facing big things. So I've been guiding my daughters through it. And I'm just like, thank goodness I have these tools and I can be resourced and I can be this guide for them and help them when times are challenging because life is just going to continue to life and things just continue to be kicked up to show us things and being curious instead of why is this happening to me? I just think, why is this happening for me? What is this trying to show me? What can I learn from this? And just being curious about it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's right. Because if we resist it, we just choose the suffering path and
Yeah.
we'll go through it anyway. You're going to have a daughter anyway, but maybe you wouldn't be a very good support or it would get all messy. And you can either do it that way or you can meet it and be with it and in present.
Yeah. What we resist persists. So resisting it doesn't help us.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Including intimacy, because I think on the deeply, I think whether we're aware of it or not, we all crave it.
Yeah.
And it's craving you. Thank you for this beautiful conversation today. Thank you for your time, especially knowing what such a big day you had yesterday and what else you're holding outside of this. And that's the thing that we don't also quite often take into consideration, how much we're all holding, and your level of presence is beautiful. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now, past me, before I had these tools and resources, I could just go off the deepen or off the rails, things would really be challenging in life. And so, yeah, for me, I think about it. I'm like, man, if I would have started this a decade sooner, well, my life could have started getting easier so much sooner. You know what I mean?
It wasn't meant to be. You needed to
And
do your thing
I had to
first.
do my thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. I'm grateful. But yeah,
you're here now.
that's what matters. And just be grateful for that version of me that got me here now. Because our past versions will give me like, oh, I can't believe I used to be that way. But that me got me to take the actions to get me to where I am now. So just always that gratitude.
Yeah, and I know we were wrapping up, but then I just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, else. I've got something else."
Yeah.
"No, don't go. We're not finished yet. We're not finished." I have this thing that I learned about Tantra. That's actually what got me in not so much the sexual stuff is what in because I just thought, "Oh, Tantra, some sexual thing that people do." It's a weird thing in India. But I learned that Tantra I was created for the everyday household kind of spirituality. There was many different other philosophies that were above the normal everyday, and I learned that tantra was about accepting everything, the dark and the light, and nothing is off limits. If you go to India and you go to like the real tantric people, they might even be like cannibals, and they can like nothing is off limits. Everything is sacred if done in presence and in love, which that's like extreme. I get that. But I just love this whole idea. And I don't know what it was that you said that encouraged that, but that's what sparked my interest. Oh, the previous versions of yourself that
Yeah.
maybe didn't respond in a way that you would today. And sometimes I think the shame that we carry about what we've done in our previous life before we knew about evolving into the person that we are today. And even now, I feel like I've still got a long way to go, even though I joke with my friend that I'm enlightened. We always joke about that. But I think that helped settle something in me because I just thought, yeah, all of those things, those bad things that I've maybe done in the past, if I could have met that with love, was that off limits? It reminds me of the goddess of Lilith, you know?
Love Lilith. Yeah. Yeah.
She's the one that gave Eve the apple. She's, don't you lose your temptation, girl. Like, temptation is good,
Yeah.
but yet we demonize that and it's bad. But I love the way Tantra says nothing is bad. I don't know.
And
Look into it.
just the duality of bringing everything in, the contrast, the dark and the light, and what we think is good and bad. That's all like the yin and the yang. And it's just like bringing all that together and knowing the flip side of a coin. We can't experience one without understanding what the opposite part of that experience is. And then can we not make part of it bad or wrong? Because we have all these parts within ourselves. So if we're making parts of us bad or wrong, then we're diminishing our power and we're being judgmental of ourselves. And when we're critical of ourselves and we're judgmental of ourselves, we're going to be very critical of others and very judgmental of others as well. So also knowing, oh, if someone's very judgy of me, it also shows me they're very judgy of them. This is more about them than it is about me. But also knowing how do I also show up that way? Because it's also something showing me some work maybe that I need to do. Okay, where do I also do that thing too? Or have I done that recently? And not as a from judgment, but curiosity.
Mm,
And what can I learn here? And how can I grow from this?
yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for
And
having me here. Bye.